Hey everyone, it's Savannah with Rooted in Living. Today I just wanted to share with you my own personal journey with my digestive health and how I came to balance out my overgrowth from yeast to living the life that I'm living now. So it all started with what I like to call it my first symptom, which was vaginal yeast infections. So it started when I was 15. I got my first vaginal yeast infection. And not only was it horrifying and frustrating and embarrassing and, painful, right? And like the discharge and the itching and the burning and the redness and all of that fun stuff, at the age of 15. But it was also terrible because I woke up the next morning after taking the antifungal cream, the Monistat that you can buy like over the counter. I woke up the next morning after taking that to a horror scene. I had an allergic reaction to it. So I woke up, it was getting ready for school, and all of a sudden I noticed something was not right down there. It was swollen, even more red, like really angry looking. It was terrifying. I just woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's something wrong with me. What is this? So I remember running downstairs, telling my mom, oh my God, we need to go to the hospital. Like, there's something wrong with me. So she's like, okay, like, let's go. So we went to the emergency room and they were like, well, we can't like conclusively like say that it's a allergic reaction, but it looks like it could be. And I was like, well, I'm gonna say it is. Like, I'm gonna stay as far away from that Monistat as I possibly can, which I did. And so then they wrote me a prescription for the antifungal pill that they give you. And you can only get that via a prescription from a doctor. So that would have been no problem if I didn't have reoccurring vaginal yeast infections. So this was just like the start of it all, or my noticing of it all. So seems like just about every single month, I would get about at least one yeast infection. And there was a point in my life where it was every single month for an entire year I would get one. And that is just, it's annoying, it's frustrating, it's really embarrassing, right? The stigma around it, and just the fact that, there's something wrong down there, so you just feel gross, and it just doesn't feel right. And so on top of that, because I had my allergic reaction, I couldn't just simply, treat it with the Monistat. I had to then call my doctor and be like, hey, that pill that you gave me the first time, I need it again. So sometimes they would give it to me without, any hesitation. And so they would write me the prescription, and then, I would just shoot over to the pharmacy. But then there are other times where they, for whatever reason, just decided to tell me, well, we would really like you to come in just to make sure you don't have an STD. What? Like, I don't. Like, I know I don't. Like, I'm careful. Like, it's like I've been checked out before. Like, I've had yeast infections. Like, I know what they're like. And this was like this was like a pattern. Like, sometimes they would give it to me and sometimes they won't. And mind you, I've had these yeast infections for, years, and like they were chronic. So like, I think I kind of was like an expert at like what a yeast infection was like. So that was mortifying. Sometimes it was mortifying. Sometimes I was just flat out pissed. I was like, I'm suffering from this. I need help from it. Help me. Like, I don't need to go, and I don't need you to tell me that, it could be something else when I know damn well exactly what it is. So it was either way. Sometimes I'd be scared. Sometimes I would just be pissed. And needless to say, it was always just yeast infection. But what was really like also scary about that is that, you know, it was in my record, right? In my medical records stating that I had these chronic yeast infections, right? Like I was constantly calling you, or I was constantly coming in. I was constantly getting written prescriptions for the antifungal cream or the antifungal pill. And so like you would have thought that at one point, one of the doctors that I was seeing or one of the nurses or somebody would have been like, you know, you seem to be getting these a lot. We seem to be writing you these prescriptions quite often. You know, maybe there's something else going on. But that never happened. Not even once. Not even once did they ask me anything about my diet, anything about my lifestyle, anything about anything, except for birth control. Like, oh, well, you know, if you went off your birth control, maybe this will stop. Okay, well, you know, being 15, 16, 17, 18, you know, years old, like I didn't want kids, and that was the way that I was going to protect myself was birth control. That was a choice that I was making, and you know, and because I just didn't want kids. So I was like, okay, well that's just not helpful. So I was like, well, I guess just taking these pills is just what I'm going to have to do. Then came the second symptom, and it didn't come like after many years. It was actually during the first time of the yeast infections, which was chronic constipation. So yet again, another really embarrassing symptom, especially at 15. Like, who wants to talk about, you know, to like an adult or your mom or somebody else that like you can't go poop? Like, that is just not a conversation I wanted to have. And it wasn't just like, I can't really go, I'm a little irregular. It was really painful. Like my whole left side, so like from my up, you know, right below my left breast all the way down to my hip, it was like a throbbing, shooting pain that made me feel like I was dying. And it was so bad at one time, like the pain was so bad one time that I was coming downstairs to tell my mom. This was when I was younger. I think I was like 16 at this time, and I was like gonna tell her like the pain that I was having. And as I was telling her, I pass out from the pain. Like, no joke. I pass out from the pain. And then I wake up and she's like, well, looks like we're going to the hospital. And I was like, well, it looks like we are. So we go there. Second time for some other symptom, and they do the CAT scan or the CT scan. They do some other, you know, like scans and tests and all that stuff, and they pretty much just come back to me and be like, yeah, well, it just seems like you're constipated, you know, just kind of go home and take some laxatives. Okay, cool, thanks. Not very helpful, especially since I get this, you know, quite often, but all right, cool. You're the doc, you got it. So home I went, laxatives I went. Okay, cool. It was kind of good for a while, but it would come back. And these chronic, and why I call it chronic constipation, was because I would get this pain in my stomach or in my side at least twice a month. It was to the point where I would lay on the couch in a very specific way that didn't hurt, you know, like it didn't hurt as much, because every time I would move, it would hurt. Every time I would breathe, it would hurt. So I had to lay in a very specific way to try to minimize the pain that I was feeling until, you know, it kind of went away. So because nobody else was questioning it, nobody else was telling me that there might be something else wrong, I was just thinking this was normal. I was just thinking, you know what, this is just something that I'm gonna have to live with, just like my yeast infections. So those were the two most visible, most like annoying and frustrating and painful experiences or symptoms that I was feeling. But there were, of course, many others. I just did not make the connections to all of them. I didn't even make the connection of the yeast and the constipation. I thought they were two totally separate things. Just this was something that was wrong with me. So then it wasn't until years later, I went through college, I was still suffering with this, right? And then all of a sudden for a whole other story, I went vegan and I started making this lifestyle change for myself. And it started out as for ethical reasons, which I won't even get into, but it slowly transitions itself into being a health focused thing. It really awoke in me into like thinking. I was like, okay, like I was seeing all of these other people who were vegan and that were super healthy, like nothing was wrong with them. They didn't have constipation. They didn't have chronic yeast infections. They didn't have like anxiety and brain fog and fatigue and skin rashes and mood swings. Like they didn't have these things. And like, I was like, why am I having these things? So it wasn't until I made this lifestyle switch for myself that I started actually questioning things. When I started, thinking like, why am I having these things? Like, this isn't normal. This doesn't seem normal. I don't want to live my life like this. Like, I don't want to accept that this is just, going to be the rest of my life. And so I didn't. And so, the next time that I had my yeast infection, I got angry. Like, I was like, I refuse to go to the doctor. I refuse to take that pill. I refuse to say that this is not connected to anything. So I set out as my adventure, set out for my journey to really find out, like what it was about and how I can fix it. So it started with, like typing in some symptoms and realizing that the yeast was from a very specific yeast, Candida albicans. And so I was like, okay, what is this? Let me look a little, deeper into this. And then I started realizing that this yeast is also in your microbiome, which your microbiome lives in your digestive system. It is also like on your skin, but I'm talking specifically in your digestive system. And it lives there naturally and in harmony and in balance with your body. Like it's needed, it's crucial, it's vital for your survival. But at times, under certain circumstances or under certain lifestyle habits and changes and, all of these things that you do, the way you eat and stress and all of that can cause for very toxic environments. And all of those things are things that I like to call your yeast fertilizers. So, like stress and, sugar and your processed refined foods, antibiotics. All of these things are yeast fertilizers. This is what helps yeast thrive and grow. So the minute that you put your body under these circumstances, the yeast is going to be like, oh, like you're telling me that like you want me to be more active because you're feeding me the exact environment that I thrive in, so I'm going to thrive. And that's exactly what it was doing. So that's what it was. I started, I made that discovery and I was like, okay, I have a yeast overgrowth, and it's just not a yeast overgrowth, down in the downstairs area. It's also in my digestive system. So it was like it was a flood of relief. Don't get me wrong, to be like, okay, nice. Like I have an answer. I have something that I can at least heal. But it was also really disheartening because I discovered it on my own. Like all of these years of going to the doctor, spending money there, getting prescriptions, having tests done, not once did anybody ever ask me what I was eating, asked me how my stress level was, maybe realize that maybe I was taking one too many antibiotics or even one too many antifungals. Nobody questions anything. And so it kind of frustrated me, quite a lot. And I was like, that has to change. Like there has to be a change there because there has to be more people out there like me. Because about like 95% of women will have a yeast infection. And most likely that yeast infection is going to be just like mine where it's chronic, right? So you're going to get it at least more than once. And to have somebody, not listen to you or not think that there's something else wrong with you or not make these connections. And they're supposed to be, right, the people that we turn to for help, when something's wrong with us. It was kind of sad, and it was really angering almost. But needless to say, I figured it out for myself. I started doing more research on this. I was really delving deep. Mind you, I have a biology degree, so I had some knowledge already. I just didn't make these connections. So as I started making these connections, I was like pulling out my old textbooks, like my anatomy and physiology and pathophys and all of these, things. And I was trying to research it, and then I was online. And I did a lot of trial and error. I did a lot of, trying this product and figuring out this product works, but this doesn't. And I didn't want to try this, and I didn't want to try that. To, a whole lot of mindset work, right? Because this was exhausting, right? Like not only was I having, the yeast infections and the constipation, but I was also having fatigue. So I was feeling tired all the time. So I had to work on that. I had to work on, my anxiety and the brain fog and skin rashes. Like there were lots of other things that were happening that I, had to learn how to kind of incorporate or how to treat and how to fix. So I kind of realized that, okay, I need to probably focus on my gut and balancing that out first, since that's the source of where all of these symptoms are coming from. So I did more research on that, and I found it, like after trial and error, like times a million, and lots of like trailing through Google of, like searching this, and then that made me go to this, and this made me go to that and that. I finally found it, and I didn't realize at the time that I was developing a program that everybody can use to try to heal their imbalance. That wasn't a goal. That wasn't something that I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. It was to heal mine. It was to heal me. It was to bring me to a place where I would no longer feel the frustration and the embarrassment and the lack of control of my own health and just the flat out unhappiness. I wanted to feel the complete opposite of all of those things, right? I wanted to feel happy. I wanted to feel like I had control of my life and had control of my health. And I didn't want to feel frustrated, and I didn't want to feel embarrassed anymore, and I didn't want to be in pain. So that's really what drove me to do this. But in the process, I was developing a program that I share with everybody else to heal them as well, which that then brought me to health coaching. So like I said, I have a biology degree, and after I graduated with that, I went into the nonprofit world as a facilitator / educator. So I did a lot of work around teaching, right, in a very non-formal setting. And after doing that, I started realizing I kind of was missing my biology a little bit, and so I was like, how can I combine the two? Well, during this process of, healing myself and figuring this all out, I was like, well, what's this? Like, what's this health coaching thing? So then I found health coaching, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I know exactly what I could talk about. I could talk about my own journey. I can help others because I know 100% that there are so many other people out there who have an imbalance in their digestive system caused from an overgrowth in their microbiome. Like I know hands down, right? Because the symptoms for it are very wide ranging. And if you combine what their symptoms are with what their lifestyle is, boom, you've got it, right? Like the traditional American lifestyle with all of your symptoms, it's a breeding ground for all of these microbiomes to become overgrown. You are literally creating an environment for them to thrive in and to be out of balance. So with that being said, that was my journey. It was a very long, very frustrating, very annoying journey, but I made it. I am now free from it. My digestive system is balanced out, and I just feel happy. Like I feel good. Like I am like vibrant again, and I know that I can get other people there as well. I know that you don't have to do what I did, and with the whole trial and error and, like doing hours and hours of research and, and trying to figure out what's going to work for you. Like I found something that can work for everybody. And I know this because I have the knowledge. I had the knowledge before going into it because I have a degree in biology. So I have some knowledge when it comes to the human development and the human body and all of that. And I have the knowledge of coaching, and I have the knowledge of my own journey. So I am confident. I am excited to share this. I'm excited to share my program. And I'm super excited to start healing people's digestive systems, right? Because if you heal your gut, you heal your life. Like, that is my motto. Your gut is so important, which I'll talk about in another video as well. So thank you so much. If you are watching and you are like, you know what, like, this sounds a lot like me, I kind of feel like I might have an imbalance going on in my digestive system, then schedule a call with me. We'll kind of chit chat, and we can maybe take a plan to get you from where you are to get you to where I am. And so that's booking a call with me. So you can do that down below. There'll be a link for that to go onto my calendar and schedule some time so we can chit chat a little bit about it. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you can get updates on my videos. And I am just so excited to start working with you. Thank you so much for listening to my journey. If it was a little like cringing, you're like, oh God, can't believe she's going there. Best believe I go there. It's time to get real, right? All right. Thank you so much for listening. And please feel free to book that call with me and start that conversation with you. Your priority number one should be your health. Okay. Well, I will see you next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.